Hi, I'm Bob Jarnigan. I'm the county historian for Jefferson County, and we're here today in the Revolutionary Graveyard in downtown Dandridge. Dandridge is a National Historic District, and this is the central square of Dandridge, and it's very unique. Dandridge started early on. Some say it's the second oldest town in the state of Tennessee. Rogersville claims that, and Greenville even claims that. But they all sprang up early on, and they were all formed in a very similar manner. There's a central square, and there's a gridlock of streets that intersect in half-acre lots. But Dandridge is unique, and Dandridge is unique because its central square was reserved as church land. And when you go to these other communities, like Greenville and Jonesboro and Rogersville, the central square is the courthouse. It's the public buildings. So what we're going to do is we're going to step back here to the middle of the Revolutionary Graveyard, War Graveyard, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the early history of this area and of Dandridge and Jefferson County. Prior to the close of the American Revolution, this was the western lands from the colonies across the Appalachian mountain chain, and it was not officially available for settlement. At the close of the American Revolution in 1783 is when the settlers could first officially come over here across the mountains and claim their land. And the Scots-Irish were the biggest ethnic group to come over here and start staking out their claims for land grants in the new Western territories. In fact, sometimes I call this America's first Wild West. The Great Indian Warpath Trail led down the Shenandoah Valley and crossed a gap into upper East Tennessee and came through the middle of what would become Jefferson County. So a lot of the early migration and settlements came through our county and within 2 miles of this spot. This I consider to be the birthplace of Dandridge and of Jefferson County. This is where the oldest church in Jefferson County was organized. Hopewell Presbyterian Church started on this spot in 1785. And it was started by the Scots-Irish. The Scots-Irish had brought the Presbyterian Church over from Scotland with them, and most of the early churches in East Tennessee and up and down the Shenandoah Valley were Presbyterian churches. So 1785. Now, what time frame is that? What does that mean for us in our Jefferson County history? This was the period of what we call the ill-fated, short-lived state of Franklin. Fascinating period in the history of Jefferson County. Let me tell you, give you a little lead in. In 1783, when the first permanent settlers came here, this was Greene County, North Carolina. Greene County, North Carolina went to the Mississippi River, okay? Now, the government for North Carolina, state capital's in Raleigh. So the people over here are paying taxes to Raleigh. They're living on the frontier. They're being attacked regularly by the Cherokee Indians, the Shawnee Indians. Consider this their sacred hunting grounds. They were here first. They were here a long time before the Europeans came here, and they claimed this land. They weren't happy with these settlers coming in here. And there was no real formal organized government over here across the Blue Ridge Mountains. It was a very interesting time frame, and the people here were already talking about, we need to form a new state. We need to form our own state because North Carolina's really not taking care of us. So what are they doing for us? Okay, so North Carolina was in talks with the Continental Congress to cede their western properties back to the Continental Congress because they really could not control that much land all the way to the Mississippi River. So when the news reached this area, some of the local people in Jefferson, what would become Jefferson County, and this whole area of upper East Tennessee sprang into action, and they formed a new state, the state of Franklin. John Sevier was elected the governor. They formed their own constitution. They wrote it based on the Constitution of North Carolina, and they set up a capital. And for 4 years, they operated independently of North Carolina, the state of Franklin. Now, the state of Franklin came before a vote of Continental Congress, and you know it missed by 2 votes. 2 votes, or we'd be standing in the state of Franklin now instead of the state of Tennessee. It missed by 2 votes, and so by late 1788, the Franklin movement had fallen apart, and North Carolina went ahead and completed their seed offer back to the Continental Congress, and this became the Southwest Territory, officially known as Territory South of the River Ohio. William Blount was elected the governor of the Southwest Territory, and the church here was growing. The little church that was founded in 1785 was growing. the area was growing. By July of 1792, there was enough settlement in this area for Governor Blunt to carve out 2 new counties. Knox County and Jefferson County were formed at the same time. And what's our first order of business when a new county is formed? We need to find where are we going to have our county seat, where are we going to build our courthouse, where are we going to build our jail, where are we going to run our government from, where are we going to collect our taxes and run and finance our government. So the commissioners from the area, and Jefferson County was much bigger back then. All of Sevier County, all of Cott County came out of original Jefferson County. Well, that means Jefferson County went to the top of the mountains with North Carolina, where Sevier County is now. The top of the Appalachian Trail was in Jefferson County originally. Think about that. And the southern half of Hamlin County was Jefferson County until 1870. Much, much bigger area. So the commissioners were elected. They went around and they held meetings in various places. Where are we going to pick as our county seat? And this was in January of 1793. And one of those meetings took place right over here. I'm going to walk over here where the church is located. The walkway that we just came up would have led right here to the front door of the church building, right here. Now, this land was owned at the time by Francis Dean. The church was built here. It's a log church building. Probably didn't even have any windows in it. Robert Henderson was the first pastor of the church. At that time it was called Henderson's Lower Meeting House, or sometimes Francis Dean's Lower Meeting House. I mean, they must have had 2 of them around here. Yeah. For the one to be lower, right? Must have had 2 of them. So the church the commissioners met right here in Francis Dean's Lower Meeting House. And there's a legend behind Dandridge being named the county seat. Those commissioners were Scots-Irishmen. And back here on the spring that I'm going to show you in just a little bit, the legend says there was a Scotch-Irish whiskey still operating off the waters of that spring. The cool, clear, cold waters made good whiskey. And those commissioners went down there and they got a sample of that. And they brought it up here to the meeting. They were in the church here, building, and they were sampling the spirits from that still. And being good Scots-Irishmen, they knew it took good water to make good whiskey. And they were very impressed with the quality of the spirits that came off that still. And there's about 8 or 9 big springs right down in this low area here, and they decided it was an excellent water source. And supposedly when this meeting broke up, this was declared the county seat.